I haven't got time to mark this motherfucker. Here we go again. We can't hear anybody. Nobody can talk to anybody.
You guessed it, Pressure Points with your two favorite hosts. I'm D, and this is Overwhelmed AJ. We're coming at you at Season 5, Episode 18, The Swedish Schindler. It's a bit of a tongue twister, but it's going to be a good one. I'm going World War II today. So, find us on Instagram and Twitter, @PointsOPressure. Get ready, cutie pies.
Well, turn the fucking thing off, you dumbass.
Can you tell our voices are smoother? More controlled.
More refined.
Refined.
Yeah. We're lighting up in the studio today, but not with the good stuff.
Not with the stuff that we normally...
Stuff. Yeah. This is, AJ got himself a cigar, some Cubans.
Well, I got you this Cuban. My Cuban's still upstairs. Am I smoking yours? Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Like, I'd be able to get through it. Fuck that.
No. I don't know. I've never smoked a cigar before, so... Well, that's not true. I had a Black and Mild once. Well, that's about it. I just love the name.
Fucking
Black and
cigarillos.
Mild. Yeah.
Gotta love them.
I think it was like vanilla.
Okay.
Or something.
The best Black and Mild is the wood tip wine. Those ones are so
that's
good.
because you bought them.
Yeah. Then that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's fancy. And now not only does it look like a 70s basement, but it smells like one.
My future home.
Yeah, where you will
like a
soon
70s
be
basement,
living.
more so than it would have in a month. Yeah. So here we are. I saw you raise an eyebrow at the Overwhelmed AJ.
I'm not overwhelmed.
You seemed overwhelmed when you were talking about your upcoming classes.
Oh, well, yeah, with...
Which is when I wrote that.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Our dear boy AJ is getting back into school.
Another semester. Yeah. It was a great 2 weeks.
He's got to repeat the last one because he failed all of his courses.
They're actually like half my class. Between the
Christ.
two classes, the two big classes that I took last semester. Half of them, at least. No, not even that. Like, by the end of the semester, half of the people had dropped out.
Okay.
And then, by the last final, we lost a handful more to grades.
Jesus Christ.
We had one person who got kicked out because they failed that badly.
God damn. Me. It was me.
It was you. How'd you know?
Yeah.
No, like, I don't get, like... one of the cases, awesome dude, who I'm sad he's not in this next one because he's a phenomenal healthcare worker. He was a firefighter for a while. But in his case, he got in a car accident.
Jesus.
And his wife had to go through a bunch of surgeries, and it was a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Because he died. No. Yeah. So it makes sense, like, it sucks. He was very close to passing.
Damn.
The other person that I sat with, who they always made it a competition to try to get a better score on every test than I did. I don't know how they failed. Because they were doing great on tests. I guess they just didn't do homework.
Yeah, Jesus.
I don't fucking
Sounds
know.
like me.
It was ridiculous. Another person got into a car accident, but it was like it was a fender bender. And
they dropped out. They're like, fuck
and they
this.
they just didn't do, like, so...
It's because their car accident wasn't as detrimental as the other one, and they were like, I can't show my face. It has to be worse. They were trying to one-up the other person so badly.
So in the pharmacology class, it's like a bunch of tests, and then the other thing, pretty much the only other thing that we get graded on is drug cards. And you have to pass the class with 78%. And somehow they didn't, because they kept getting 40% on all their tests and didn't do any drug cards. Idiots. I'm surrounded by idiots.
Failure. Yes, you are.
Oh, I realize I'm listening to myself talk. I realize it sounds weird because I have the active noise canceling on.
Oh, I was going to ask about
awesome
that. You said
headphones.
that it sounded weird earlier.
Yeah, it was just me. It sounds much cleaner.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So how was your week?
Yeah, nothing too crazy.
Oh, there's shit in the bottom of my glass.
Because you asked your cigar in there.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Isn't that what everybody does?
Yeah, just another standard week in the life of D, you know?
So you do one thing at work and then set a timer for 12 minutes and take a nap.
Yeah.
They do another thing at work, timer for 12 minutes.
I've figured out how to cheat the system of my job and work every 12 minutes for 4 minutes. So it's been good, actually.
Perfect. Hey, that's a great return on investment.
Fuck the system, honestly.
You work for 4 minutes and you get paid for 20.
Yeah, oh yeah.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
Also, fuck the system.
Exactly. So as long as nobody listens to this and knows who I am where I work, I should be good to go.
Oh, yeah. And the one person who listens to this and knows where you work, you got a new job, so they don't know where you work anymore. Yeah.
There's somebody that I used to work with that knows
No,
about this?
somebody that knew where you worked in your last job.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and then you changed it.
Yeah,
So
here
you're
we
good.
are.
You're
Yeah.
clear. You're in the
Okay.
clear.
I'm set.
I was going to ask you something. I don't remember what the fuck it was. I'm a little tired.
We are going to start off this episode about a discussion whether
Hold on.
garlic is a vegetable.
First, I've never seen Schindler's List.
Oh, okay. That's okay.
But, I mean, I know the story.
Okay.
I also know that there are a lot of people who did pretty much exactly what he did, but didn't get any recognition at all and saved tens of thousands
Oh my
more.
God, so many, dude. I'll be talking about 2 people in this episode, but before any of that, I'm prefacing this.
Yes. We
whether
were talking
garlic
about
is a vegetable.
No, well-
because we were talking about our vegetable intake.
which is onion and garlic.
Yeah,
Potentially
the
garlic.
best vegetables.
Mm-hmm. That's why we smell like that.
I have an excerpt from Healthline.com.
Ooh.
Yeah, the first time we've had we've put our references and shit in this.
And it's a shit reference.
Yeah. Is garlic a vegetable? Botanically, garlic is considered a vegetable. It belongs to the onion family alongside shallots, leeks, and chives.
So it is a vegetable.
You heard it here first in the episode. That's all we need to talk
All
about
right.
now.
Hey, thanks, Patreon. Hey, thanks for listening. And no, that's good. I'm
You good?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I'm doing a World War II episode.
Is it because I've been straying from World War II?
Yes.
I've been more just Cold War.
We ebb and flow it.
Yeah.
So that it's not World War II all the
Ebb
time.
and flow.
There's so many fucking World War II stories, and it's like, holy shit.
It's because it was well documented. And it was
so
before
much.
the active suppression by the CIA and FBI
Right.
of documents. So
Oh, God. So, we're going to go back, and we're going to talk about a man by the name of...
Schindler.
No.
Swedish. Sorry.
Raoul. Raoul. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. That's what I saw it was pronounced as.
How do you spell it?
Raoul. Raoul.
Raoul.
Raoul.
Raoul.
Yeah, Rodal.
It's rural.
Yeah. Raoul Wallenberg graduated high school back in 1912, I believe. And he spent a little less than a year in not 1912, Jesus. It was like, he was born in 1912, for fuck's sake.
Holy shit, we're off to a great start.
Yeah, we're killing it. I'm just still thinking about garlic.
I get it.
So, graduated high school and spent a little less than a year in the Swedish military. Then, after he was like, no fucking thank you, he studied architecture in Paris for a year, which he was sent there by his grandfather, who was a diplomat. And then he moved to Michigan in 1931 to study architecture at the University of Michigan. It's a big fucking change in the 20s to go from Stockholm, Sweden, all the way over to fucking Michigan. Yeah, Michigan in the U.S. Fucking wild. And he would work like odd jobs while he was in school, and at the same time, whenever he would have vacation time, instead of going home, he would hitchhike across the United States.
Of course.
Yeah, I mean, as one does when everyone's trustworthy in the fucking 30s.
I mean,
I don't know. when there's a depression and everyone's trying to leave where they're from.
yeah. There's more desperation.
Yeah. And he was traveling so much like that he, in letters that he was sending to his grandfather, he said, when you travel like a hobo, everything is different. You have to be on the alert the whole time. You're in close contact with new people every day, and it gives you training in diplomacy and tact, which down the road certainly helps this guy out. Now, in 1935, he graduated and he returned to Sweden to discover that his degree in architecture is not honored as a certification for architecture in Stockholm.
Perfect.
So
should have checked before you went.
Fucking the grand old United States education system fails a college graduate once again.
Ugh. Don't remind me.
So, he ends up speaking with his grandfather, and his grandfather says, hey, look, I know a guy in fucking South Africa. So he works down in South Africa for about a year, comes back to Sweden again, and he starts working for an international trading company that was currently run in 1936 by a Hungarian Jew. So, after about 2 years of working under this guy, the Nuremberg race laws are put in place in Bulgaria. Well, just overall in fucking Hungary. Because Hungary was not under the control of Germany, but they were more or less an ally with
they were
what
bros.
Germany was doing. So, these Nuremberg race laws are put in place, and because of how all of these are laid out, it kind of states like, hey, no like, you can't marry Jews if you're not one. You can't spend nearly as much time. They shouldn't be able to come in and out of Hungary. Like, there are so many restrictive laws that Raoul's boss isn't able to travel to Hungary without dealing with, like, days and days of bullshit each time.
For a lot of places, it even revokes your citizenship of the country you were born and living in. Like, it really fucked up a lot of people.
It's fucked. And I mean, they're both working in Sweden. However, oh shit, it's literally melting the wax to it.
Nice.
So they're both working in Sweden, and so his boss says, Raoul, I want you to...
Raoul.
I think it's Raoul.
No, I know. I'm just giving you shit.
So he says, I want you to take over what's going on in Hungary. I want you to take over our operations there, and I'll just run things everywhere else because I don't want to have to keep dealing with this. Just please go and check in on my family as often as you can. Report back. That's all I ask if you're going to do this. And so Raoul accepts. He has no problem doing it. And over the next 3 years, he actually ends up learning Hungarian. He makes these solid connections, and he gets promoted to international director. So this kind of puts him in a position where now he begins working heavily with Germany and occupied areas of France. So it's about 1941, right? And he's bouncing between Hungary, Germany, France, and Germany, or Nazi France and Germany, and he's just making connections along the way. Like, this is a huge opportunity. It's a huge company that he's working for, and it's opening a lot of fucking doors for him. 1 second.
Oh, you gotta puff some of the candle wax that melted onto the.
It's pretty much well out. So, in 1941, he is invited to go see a British anti-Nazi propaganda movie with his sister, which was banned in Sweden. However, they were able to go see it in the British embassy that's in Stockholm. So they go watch Pimpernel Smith, which in the United States is known as Mr. V. And it's a movie about a man posing as an archaeologist to discover Aryan origins of the Germans. However, on the backside of what he's doing, this guy's pulling like some really good sneaky spy shit, and he's like posing as a fucking scarecrow in one scene and then jumps down and like shoots a Nazi in the face or whatever. But at the end of the movie, he ends up saving around 28 Jews from Nazis and gets them out of Germany. So this movie kind of lights a fire under Wallenberg's ass. He sees it, and he's leaving with his sister, and she talked about it later and said, "We thought the film was amazing. When we got up from our seats, Raoul said, 'This is the kind of thing I'd like to do.'"
Ooh,
and
okay.
It's very fucking telling as to how he starts handling his business in international trade. So a few years go by, and in March 1944, Hitler realizes that the Hungarian leader is in peace talks with the U.S. and Britain.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah. Previously, all was well.
Well,
Hitler and, all was well between them, I should say.
Okay.
And then...
everything was going great.
Yeah, everything for everyone was so good in Hungary before March 1944. No, God, it's fucking terrible. So, because the leader's in peace talks, Hitler gets word of it, and he's like, "Whoa, what the fuck?" And yes, they are still honoring Nuremberg laws. However, Hitler says, "Occupy Hungary right now. We're deporting all of the Jews. Like, if they're going to be under somebody who's with my enemies, they're done." So they end up putting the leader of Hungary on house arrest, and they monitor all of his communications. So let's see. So hundreds of thousands of Jews end up getting picked up over the next 2 months, I believe. They end up getting just under 500,000 Jews deported from Hungary. I mean,
That's a decent
2
chunk.
fucking months. It's just wild and unfortunate to see German efficiency at its best in 1944. Now, Karl Lutz, who had previously, over the last 2 years, had been utilizing and distributing Swiss safe conduct documents. He was Swiss, and what he would do is he worked with the embassy in Hungary, and he would go around and he would just give, anyone that was wearing a yellow star, he would hand them a safe conduct document, which is basically imagine if Putin, current day, if Putin was like, "Hey, I want to come to the U.S. or I want to go to the UN and have peace talks," he would be granted a safe conduct document that would grant him more or less immunity for a specific amount of time, that just says, "Hey, we're not going to shoot him on sight. We're not going to fucking kill this guy. He's here on a diplomatic level, and he's okay to be in this area. He's just passing through in a way," right? Obviously, he's a much
higher
power than just a regular Jew in Hungary. But giving these during wartime is fucking vital for Jews, because it shows that you aren't a regular citizen of this country. It's hey, they're just passing through Hungary. They're here for just a little bit, maybe visiting family. They're here on vacation, whatever.
They're allowed to be here, and you can't deport them.
Exactly. So they're able to pass through. They can go to Switzerland, whatever. They can go to any neutral country and do whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah, it basically says there's another country that knows that they're here, and if they don't come back, there's going to be hell to pay. That's that kind of idea.
And so it's kind of a get out of Holocaust free card.
That's terrible. That should have been the name of the
Get out
episode.
of Holocaust-free cards. We'll go back and change it. So, excuse me. So over 2 years, he hands out thousands of these documents. And Karl was actually contacted by another Hungarian diplomat with more or less a research study into what was happening in Auschwitz and how many people were being deported. And this document itself is like 30 pages long. And, I mean, it's damning material for Germans. This is stuff that, like, as soon as Lutz has his hands on it, he leaks it to Britain, he leaks it to the U.S., and basically all of the UN. And after Roosevelt gets his hands on it, he creates this group called the War Refugee Board. And the UN joins in, and everyone starts funding this War Refugee Board. But on the backside of the War Refugee Board, they're creating the Office of Strategic Services.
Yeah, OSS.
Yes. So the OSS is basically a UN or Allied-controlled espionage group.
It was U.S.
Oh, it was US.
It was U.S. based. It's basically it split after the war and became the FBI and the CIA.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's just carrying out tasks at the time for the War Refugee Board and getting all the funding for the War Refugee Board while still keeping everything as under the table as possible.
They also distributed like leaflets to resistance groups.
It's fucking crazy.
My favorite publication from the OSS is called Simple Sabotage, and you can find it online. It's awesome. And it's still super like relatable to today, but basically the entire premise of the book, they would distribute it to resistance members and sometimes just drop them.
Jesus.
And the entire premise is, so you want to rebel against the Nazi occupiers, but you don't want to get caught.
Yeah.
So it's how to sabotage your workplace. Are you working at a tank factory?
Told me about this one, yeah.
Put a little bit of sand in the lubricating oil.
Yeah.
Just little tiny things.
A pinch.
Like there are a lot of chemicals that you wipe up with a rag. A lot of oil. I think it's oils and shit. That if you just leave them at room temperature, exposed to oxygen, they'll ignite after like 6 hours.
Jesus.
So just don't put it in the appropriate receptacle. Throw it in the bottom of a trash can.
Yeah.
And then it'll burn down the factory when you're at home. Mm. It's really cool.
That's sick. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I love burning down places.
Yeah. I love fire.
Yeah.
This is... So while they're working under all of this, like, secret guise, they end up reaching out to a man by the name of Raoul Wallenberg. And they find out, this guy is in the perfect position to be in the OSS because he's a citizen of a neutral country. He wants to save Jews. He's very outspoken about wanting to save them. And he's already worked alongside Germans previously. He has name recognition, and he knows how to fucking work those things. So, they take him in, they start doing a little bit of training, kind of bring him on, and Wallenberg is all about it. Like, dude hops on board in no time at all. So he arrives in Hungary in the summer of 1944, and there are only about 230,000 Jews remaining, which is fucking wild.
Yeah, that's a shitload.
I mean, considering months before, they've taken double that already. Most of which, like I said, have ended up in Auschwitz. Mm-hmm. So,
or Treblinka.
Yeah.
Or Dachau.
No, like the majority. I think
it was Auschwitz like, specifically. I guess
like 15,
geographically that makes sense.
Only like 15% ended up not going to Auschwitz. Like they were going just fucking. Oh yeah, straight
this is later in the war.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is 44. So at this point in 1944, the Nazis had caught on that Karl Lutz had his safe conduct documents were basically like a sneaky little legality. So the Germans are just like, we're not fucking honoring that anymore. We're occupying Hungary. This has no stand. But You still have 8,000 of those that you can distribute because, this is like, hey, final warning, whatever you've got left, distribute. Carl Lutz goes, okay, well, I have 8,000 left. And they're like, all right, you can distribute those, do your thing. But after that, if you're doing it again, we're shipping you off. Like, it's against the law. So, they had to figure out, the OSS now had to figure out how to get around Germany's, like, stopping the distribution of these. So, Raoul gets with the OSS and breaks down what it was like working directly with Germans for years. And he says, if you come in there with, like, a very authoritative position and you're in a position, you say, hey, look, I'm so-and-so, I have these are legal, and they look legal, these guys aren't going to question it.
Yeah, they'll go for it.
Yeah. They're already fucking following an authoritarian dictator, so somebody else that shows authority is probably going to stop them in the tracks. Now, obviously, this is a bit more extreme of an example because this is wartime. It's not like, he can just show up and say, no, we're doing trade talks here, and makes it happen. This is a completely different situation. So, the OSS gets a plan together, and they create Swedish documents, which are basically just passports, more or less, that they break down, like, they're protective passports that they're set to appear as though anyone in possession of it would be a Swedish citizen that's awaiting repatriation. But because it's for Sweden and a neutral country, it stops any deportation. Like, it's so fucking uncanny that how much these two things look alike. So much so that Wallenberg gets his own out, and he's like, okay, our normal document looks like a regular passport, but if we want these to look Swedish, we're going to give them a little bit of a yellow tint. We're going to, like, give some of them a bit of a blue tint because they'll be a little older. We're going to put the Swedish yellow plus in the back for the flag. And then in the corner, he gets his initials, RW, on there with the little Swedish crown over it to show that it was distributed by him, which is great because he's currently posing as the Swedish ambassador in Hungary.
Where was the actual Swedish ambassador?
I don't believe that they had one, but if
Perfect.
they did, they would have I'm sure that they just told him, hey, get the fuck out of here. I'm sure after the occupation of Germany,
they were
he
fleeing.
dipped the fuck out.
That's great.
Yeah, I know, really, though.
Very smart. It reminds me a lot of Garbo, the way he would doctor
it's just so crazy.
documentation.
So, though this is completely illegal, fuck the Nazis, and all of these appear completely legit. So most of the Nazi officers buy it. They're like, oh, well, this is why none of these people were deported in the first 2 months, because
They're Swedish.
They're Swedish. Somebody else checked their documents, whatever, they're fine. Fuck it. Or if somebody was like, I know this shit is fake, they would just bribe them to fuck off. So
Easy enough.
it's fantastic. So eventually, this kind of falls through, and Germany stops accepting the passports. However, once again, the fucking genius of German diplomats, for some reason, says, whatever you have left, you can still distribute. And that's it. How many do you have? And they go, around 9,000 or something. And they're like, Germany says, okay, fine. 9,000 more. That's it. Because you've already got the 8,000 that Karl Lutz has. So, Wallenberg dips his fingers into the refugee board's pockets. And he goes, listen, if I can't make more of these documents, if we can't create more of this stuff, then I'm going to buy 32 buildings in Budapest, and we're going to make them extraterritorial, which then it grants diplomatic immunity.
Yeah, that would make it it's like a
city-state.
No, it's a like an embassy.
Yeah.
How it's like, the Swedish embassy, it's technically Swedish laws on the land.
It's like hallowed ground. They can't fucking do anything there because exactly it's not Hungary ground anymore. So he buys all of these, and they're putting up signs that are like Swedish Research Institute, Swedish Library, like Swedish barracks and shit like that. That's just like the Nazis come up to it. What the fuck are you guys doing? And they're like, hey,
you can't step on here.
you can't come in here.
Do you have a passport?
This is. They all have diplomatic immunity. They're housing people here. They're bringing people in because they're like, hey, these guys have their passports. We can't quite move them to Sweden yet, but we're going to keep a lot of people here. Mind you, some of the people that they were bringing in, they didn't have enough passports to really hand them out yet.
Well,
so they
it's
just
not like...
Yeah, I mean, they can take anybody in that they want.
Yeah, it's not like the cops were pounding on the door saying, let me see all your passports, because it was foreign ground.
Yeah,
Genius.
because they're already
They don't
good.
need the documentation.
Yeah, they're already covered.
Until they can get smuggled out. Like, until they actually are able to leave.
It's fucking ingenious. And anyone that leaves just grabs a fucking passport from somebody else that's in the neighborhood, and they set.
Dip on out.
They're safe to come back. So this is working phenomenally. And with the remaining 8,000 passes for Lutz and 9,000 for Wallenberg, they go right back to work. They're like, okay, we're distributing the shit out of the last ones. So Lutz takes his 8,000 safe conduct passes, and he gives one to each Jewish family.
Ah, okay.
So it grants them departure to Sweden, and the Germans realize so many people have left, and they're like, how the fuck, like, this isn't how this
everybody?
works. And Lutz says, oh, I must have misunderstood. After all these families have left, he says, oh, I misunderstood. I thought this applied to one per family, because I thought they would just go to head of household, and obviously if the father of the family is holding a safe conduct pass, clearly his wife and children would be clear too. So he gets
love it.
Well over 8,000 people out. I mean, more than
potentially
likely.
Like 4, 5, 6 times that.
Exactly. And then Wallenberg takes his 9,000, which has mysteriously turned into like 20,000 at this point. And Waller goes to a train that's being boarded for Auschwitz. And they drive up in this big truck. They've got boxes of these passports in the back. And he gets out of the truck, and the Germans start shouting at him. They start shooting pop shots, like over his head, by his feet. Warning shots telling him, hey, get the fuck out of here. Nobody can come talk to these guys. And Wallenberg just holds out his passports, and he goes, no. These people are Swedish, and I have their passports here. And he just starts handing them out to everybody. He's walking along the side of the train, holding them up, and people are just reaching their hands out, grabbing these. And as soon as like the box or two that he's got in his arms are empty, and he's like, everybody's got one, he says, let's see, I've got it. He says, you can't take these people away. They're all Swedish citizens. Everyone, show your papers. Show your papers, people. And so everybody starts holding up these protective passports. And there are a couple people that are like yelling through, they're like, we don't have them. And he says, put up any document that you have.
Yeah, they're not going to check
exactly.
everybody.
So people are all raising up their passports. People are raising out documents to show that they're Jewish. They're raising up anything they can. And because all of these people are rushing out of the train station at the same time, no one is taken to Auschwitz on that train.
Solid.
Everybody gets out, and Wallenberg hops back on his truck, goes back to his newly created Swedish embassy, and kicks his feet up. Mind you, they're employing people in this area. They're giving people, like, a place to live. They're feeding them. It's amazing what he was able to do just with, like, I mean, obviously it's under the refugee board, but he's taking that money and putting it back into these people that so desperately need the help in the best way possible.
Well, it really outlines the ridiculousness of the weird politics between countries
Yeah.
at the time. Like, there's so much that if you're smart enough to figure it out and you're ballsy enough to actually execute it, there's a lot of weird loopholes and weird laws that, I mean, hell, even the Nazis would uphold for some fucking reason.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, at any time they could just sweep over that complex and kill everybody there, but might cause an international incident.
Exactly. If you're going after a neutral power, then
That's not good.
The UN takes a bigger stance and pushes further into things. Or the Allies push harder. They all kind of get together
a lot of
and
people,
they go, hey, you're not taking Hungary. If you're going to do this to a neutral power that's on their ground in Hungary, then yeah, we'll fucking take Hungary.
Well, it's
back.
like, yeah, here's a neutral country, and then you attack them. Well, they're not neutral anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
And now their allies are going to enter as well, and then potentially other neutral countries. Like, it creates a cascade of issues, so it's super smart.
So, Germans eventually come to the extraterritorial buildings, and they're knocking on the doors. They end up getting through, and they're just grabbing anybody. And they're taking them over to the river Danube, which was known for Jewish executions. There was one account that I read that people were like, we used to refer to it as the blue Danube, but once all of this started happening, it transitioned into the red Danube because of how many people were just executed right next to it. They'd fall into the river and it would sweep them away. So Wallenberg hears about this. His secretary, the lady who contacts him, her dad was one of the men that was on that train to Auschwitz that he saved. Okay. He came home beaten up, and she was like, oh my God, this man Wallenberg has done so much. Mm. Now, she heard about it because she saw them taking her husband away. So she sends message to Wallenberg. Wallenberg rushes out, and he's well behind these guys. They've taken quite a few.
They've got a head start.
Yeah. So he finally gets out to the river Danube. They're raising their guns, and he's holding boxes, just fucking screaming. He's like, you can't do this. They all have documents. If any of you shoot anyone, I will personally hold you accountable for war crimes. And they're like, oh, shit, this is the fucking Swedish ambassador. He's going to do it. They know who Wallenberg is. So they lower their guns. He gets everybody away from there. And this isn't the first time that it's happened. There was a time shortly before this that they rounded up women and children out of Budapest that weren't able to stay in the 32 buildings. Line them up in front of a wall, and then these Nazi officers are arguing with one another. Oh, should we shoot him in front of this wall? And they've got this big fucking machine gun just ready to go. And they're like, maybe we should take him over to the Danube River. It'll be easier to do it there. And Wallenberg shows up, same situation, gets these officers to fuck off, and he saves all these people from being killed. It happened time and time again, Wallenberg saving people in situations like this by putting his foot down and just saying, this is going to stop. Like,
it's a con.
Yeah.
He's got the confidence.
It really is.
He's got documents that seem legit.
Yeah.
And then he's targeting, like, the Nazis that he's targeting are, officers. So
nobody's questioning it, yeah.
They have some authority, but they don't know much. I'm sure they're not, involved in Hungarian Swiss politics. If he says, I'm the ambassador, they say, oh shit, I know about that. I'm just gonna listen to this guy. Like, exactly. It's so smart.
Because it's not like they have. It's not like they have high-ranking generals that are at these executions. They just have grunt men that they're like, hey, go fucking kill all these people, clear out this area, shoot all these Jews in front of a wall, whatever. Mm-hmm. But he comes in and, like I said, just puts his foot down, says that's not happening today, saves everyone there, and people knew his name. Now, unfortunately, in 1945, there is no additional record of Wallenberg.
Oh,
Last he was seen is he was picked up by the USSR. And like 2 years later, the USSR reached out and was like, hey, he died of a heart attack in 1947 in one of our prisons.
Why was he in the prison?
They arrested him because they realized that he wasn't actually an ambassador. They arrested him for fraud and a bunch of other bullshit and just locked him up because it's the USSR.
Well, yeah, I was going to say he should be extradited then to
absolutely.
Switzerland, but... Or Swiss ambassador?
Swedish. He was Swedish.
Swedish ambassador. Yeah, so, like, he should have been extradited, but then again, Gulag.
Mm-hmm, yeah,
no extradition from Gulag.
They're not going to do anything for that. So, yeah, unfortunately, no record of him after 1945. Nobody hears from him again. All in all, Lutz ended up saving right around 62,000 people. And Wallenberg, they have no idea, but it's well over 100,000, probably two, that they managed to con the Nazis out of killing these people.
Solid. I would say at a minimum, at least 2 people.
Oh, yeah. At least 2 to 3 people.
Yeah, minimum.
So both Lutz and Wallenberg have awards that are granted periodically in their honor. Wallenberg has, I believe he has a little memorial in the Auschwitz Holocaust Museum now. For courage and selflessness against great odds. So yeah, a happy, fucking mostly happy episode.
Mostly happy episode.
Once again, which doesn't happen all that often.
That is true.
Yeah. So
yeah,
here
solid,
we are, man.
Solid work. I was hoping we would cover this guy before. Jesus Christ. I was hoping we'd cover this topic because there are a handful of people who really went above and beyond and just tricked people into getting away with this shit.
And I mean, even just in the OSS, people that were working alongside Lutz, that Lutz had either recruited or were doing the same thing as him, and not even in the OSS, there's just accounts of people saving the same amount as these two guys, but weren't working under the OSS. They weren't working under these government organizations. They were doing it themselves.
They were just doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Garbo.
Yeah, it's fucking amazing.
Just doing his own stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
That's so cool to read about.
That was a weird noise.
Yeah. Oh well. This might have died.
I will actually edit that out in post.
We will get those this time.
Maybe.
All right. Well, you got the Patreon.
I suppose so. All right. So patreon.com/points-o-pressure. I'm actually working on stuff for that. And hopefully, we usually do like a mid-year break in like June.
Yeah, I think it'll probably be the start of June. We might get 1 or 2 episodes into June this year. And then...
yeah, we usually go to like 22 or 24 episodes, then we take a break. And then after that, we should... I don't want to make any promises, but we'll be putting out a lot more content on there. Yeah. So, you guys help us pay for everything and keep this show on the road.
You help us buy Cuban cigars for recording.
No,
I'm just kidding.
That was out of my pocket. But, so the chair people of the PP is Mini D and Nordic Thunder. Thank you guys so much. One more and we'll have a board.
Yep.
Abby... AJ's Third Nut, Haley, Lindo, Toddle Waddle, Casey McFacey, Dark Runner, D's Nuts, and Lara Revo. Thank you guys so much for, letting us fuck around and...
Dude, seriously. Yeah. Like, actually be able to put out ads and be able to see that growth because of you guys our patrons. Like we wouldn't be
here.
We wouldn't be getting nearly as far as we are. Our reach, like as weird as it sounds, our global reach would be so much smaller without
just
all
the
of your
fact
help.
that we have a global reach is mind blowing, and it's because of you guys.
So thank you. We can't thank you enough. And as always, reach out to us on Instagram and Twitter at @PointsOPressure if you have recommendations for literally anything. We got a book recommendation just the other day, and a show note recommendation from Mal. So I'll show those to you when we finish up here.
Awesome.
But we will catch you guys next Monday. Thanks again.
Yeah, we'll see you
then. See you later, suckers.